the Colosseum. The 17th of September, 73 years after the birth of Christ, beneath the arena floor, in chambers that tourists would never see, even 2,000 years later, a young woman named Livia is chained to a cold stone wall. She is 19 years old. Just 3 hours ago, she watched her two brothers die in the sand above. She heard the crowd roar as gladiators cut them down. She felt the very stone vibrate beneath her feet as 50,000 Romans celebrated the destruction of her family. Her brothers were Dacian nobility, captured during recent campaigns along the Danube. They were educated men who spoke Greek and Latin, men who had negotiated trade agreements and hosted diplomatic dinners. They died badly. One took 7 minutes to bleed out after a trident pierced his abdomen. The other survived just long enough to beg for a mercy that never came. The crowd loved every second. Livia still wears the silk dress she had on when Roman soldiers stormed her family's compound 6 weeks ago. The silk is filthy now, stained with things she tries not to remember, but the guards have kept her in this dress deliberately. The contrast is the point. Silk and chains, nobility and captivity. What she was and what she has become. She can hear footsteps now, echoing through the underground corridors. Multiple sets, heavy boots on stone, men's voices discussing something in Latin she only half understands. Their tone is casual. This is not important to them, just routine business. Standard procedure for a normal day at the Colosseum. A guard stops outside her cell. The key grinds in the lock. The door swings open. 3 men enter. One wears the armor of an arena official. The other 2 are dressed in the leather and bronze of gladiators, fresh from combat. One has blood on his shoulder, still wet from whatever contest he just won. The official holds a wax tablet. He reads from it in the monotone of a man performing an administrative task. Official VO. Livia of Dalciadat, captive number 417, category 3 prisoner, assigned under the provision of Lex Victorum to the gladiator, Gaius Valerius Maximus, as reward for victory in the afternoon contests. He makes a mark on the tablet. The transaction is recorded. Everything in Rome is recorded. The bureaucracy of empire extends even to this underground chamber, where a 19-year-old woman sits chained and terrified. The gladiator called Gaius Valerius Maximus steps forward. He is perhaps 30, his body a map of scars, with the build of a man who has survived the arena long enough to become valuable property. His eyes are empty of everything but exhaustion. The official departs. The door closes. The lock turns. Livia and the gladiator are alone in a cell designed for exactly this purpose. Iron rings are set into the walls at specific heights. A wooden bench is positioned with calculated precision. Drainage channels are cut into the stone floor. This room has been used before, many times. The architecture makes that chillingly clear. But here is what makes this moment remarkable. What happened next is documented in sources Rome tried desperately to suppress, because what occurred in these chambers beneath the Colosseum was not random violence. It was systematic policy, a deliberately designed reward, structure that transformed female prisoners into instruments of a brutal entertainment machine. And occasionally, when individuals like Gaius Valerius Maximus made choices that deviated from the script, the system's true nature became visible in ways that administrative records could not completely hide. Tonight, you will discover what Rome built beneath the greatest amphitheater in the ancient world. The infrastructure designed to process captured women through stages of systematic humiliation. The legal frameworks that made exploitation official policy. The reward system that gave victorious gladiators ownership over female prisoners as payment for their service. This is not sensationalized fantasy. This is documented Roman practice. The sources exist in multiple independent accounts. The physical evidence survives in spaces beneath the Colosseum that were sealed for centuries. The legal codes describe the procedures in bureaucratic detail. The system was real, the women were real, and what happened to them was in many ways worse than the quick deaths their brothers suffered in the sand above. Before we continue, understand this. We will examine systematic exploitation with historical accuracy. Rome constructed elaborate mechanisms for controlling and destroying captured populations. The genius of Roman administration extended to evil as efficiently as it extended to engineering. The horror lies not in chaos but in order, not in the breakdown of civilization, but in civilization functioning exactly as designed. Stay until the end, because what you'll learn will shatter everything you thought you knew about Roman civilization. To understand Livia's fate, we must first understand the arena itself and why Rome built such elaborate infrastructure. For spectacles that combined entertainment with systematic cruelty, the Flavian amphitheater, known today as the Colosseum, opened in 80 AD It took nearly a decade to build. It could hold between 50 and 80,000 spectators packed tightly together. It featured sophisticated engineering, underground chambers, mechanical elevators for raising animals and prisoners to the arena level, and hydraulic systems for elaborate water displays. The structure represented the pinnacle of Roman architectural achievement. But the Colosseum was not primarily an engineering project. It was a political tool, designed to serve specific functions within the Roman imperial power structure. The arena provided free entertainment that kept the restless urban population satisfied. Bread and circuses was official policy. Keep them fed, keep them entertained, and keep them from questioning the fundamental injustices of Roman society. More importantly, the arena demonstrated Roman power through systematic violence. Every execution, every gladiatorial combat, every animal hunt reinforced the message that Rome was invincible, that resistance was futile, that enemies of the state would be destroyed publicly and theatrically. The spectacle was the entire point. Into this system came prisoners of war. Rome's relentless military expansion provided a steady supply of captives. Germanic tribes, Dacians, Britons, North Africans, anyone who resisted Roman authority and survived could be transported to Rome and displayed as living proof of Roman superiority. Male prisoners typically faced execution, forced combat, or slavery in mines and farms, but female prisoners faced a different calculus. Their value derived from different functions. Labor was one, domestic service another. But there was a third category, which official sources describe with careful euphemisms and which modern historians have only recently begun to examine honestly. The category was political humiliation, rendered sexual. The systematic use of captured women to demonstrate not just military victory, but the complete destruction of enemy societies. What Roman sources called the demonstration of conquest through the ultimate subjugation of enemy populations. This was not the random violence of individual soldiers. This was policy. It was debated in the Senate. It was codified in law. It was administered through official channels.
The practice operated under a brutal reward system victorious. Gladiators received prizes for their service, and one category of reward was access to the female prisoners held in the chambers beneath the arena. This created a self-reinforcing cycle. Gladiators fought more viciously for greater rewards. The prisoners provided entertainment value through their presence and their suffering. The crowd witnessed both the combat and its aftermath, knowing what awaited the women displayed in chains during the victory celebrations. The entire mechanism served to demonstrate Roman power through every possible avenue. The Dacian campaigns of the 70s AD provided the context for Livia's captivity. Emperor Vespasian was consolidating his power. He needed military victories to legitimize his rule. The Dacian territories along the Danube offered a perfect opportunity for conquest, securing borders and providing the captives needed for triumphant games in Rome. The campaigns were brutal. Roman legions burned villages, destroyed farmland, and captured elite families specifically to display them in triumph. The goal was not just military victory, but the complete psychological defeat of populations that might otherwise organize future resistance. Livia's family was targeted deliberately. Her father had negotiated with Rome before. He spoke Latin. He understood Roman politics. He represented the educated Dacian elite that could potentially lead organized opposition. Capturing his family served a strategic purpose beyond simple revenge. It demonstrated that even those who tried to work with Rome would be destroyed if Rome chose to expand into their territories. Livia appears in an official dispatch as daughter of the Dacian nobleman Decibelus, age approximately 18, suitable for display and triumph. She was property before she ever reached Rome. The dispatch did not describe her as a person, but as an asset with a specific use value. That classification determined everything that followed.
When prisoners like Livia reached Rome, they entered a bureaucracy of horror. They were registered, numbered, and medically examined. They were categorized. Category 1 were children and the elderly, sent to household slavery. Category 2 were common women, sold in bulk to brothels or labor gangs. Category 3 was reserved for noble, women of appropriate age, reserved for what the records coldly called arena services. What arena services actually meant was documented in internal administrative papyri discovered in excavations beneath the Colosseum. These documents, published in scholarly journals few ever read, describe the procedures with chilling bureaucratic precision. Category 3 prisoners were held in specific underground chambers. They were provided minimal food and water, just enough to keep them healthy for display. They were brought to the arena level during victory celebrations, and they were assigned to victorious gladiators according to formal protocols that administrators tracked with the same care they applied to equipment inventory. The system was not chaos. It was administered exploitation, operating at the very heart of Roman civilization. Gaius Valerius Maximus was 32 years old when he entered Livia's cell that September evening. He had been a gladiator for 14 years, far longer than the average. His story began in Gaul. He was born free, the son of a blacksmith. When he was 18, Romans accused his father of avoiding taxes. The penalty was enslavement for the entire family. His father died in the mines. His mother and sister were sold to a Roman household. Gaius, young and strong, was sold to a gladiator school. He learned to kill efficiently. His style was defensive, patient. He fought to survive, not to impress. This kept him alive. But 14 years of killing, in front of screaming. Crowds had destroyed something essential inside him. He functioned, he trained, he fought, but he felt nothing except a deep exhaustion. The reward system had evolved during his career. At first, gladiators received monetary bonuses, but as the supply of prisoners grew, arena officials began offering access to female captives instead. Many gladiators preferred this. The pleasure of dominating a woman who had been enemy. Nobility felt like genuine victory in a life otherwise defined by servitude. Gaius had claimed this reward before, 3 times in the past 2 years, and each experience left him feeling emptier than the last. The officials had noticed. They marked his records as showing inconsistent performance. Gladiators who showed weakness could be promoted to more dangerous matches. The system had ways of eliminating pieces that no longer functioned optimally. So when Gaius won his match that September afternoon, earning the right to claim a Category 3 prisoner, he felt only dread. He knew what was expected. He knew that failing to perform would raise questions about his usefulness. He knew the woman waiting in the cell was someone's daughter, who had watched her family die hours earlier. And he knew he would enter that cell anyway, because refusing meant consequences he could not afford. The system did not permit conscience. It permitted only function or failure. When prisoners like Livia reached Rome, they entered a bureaucracy of horror. They were registered, numbered, and medically examined. They were categorized. Category 1 were children and the elderly, sent to household slavery. Category 2 were common women, sold in bulk to brothels or labor gangs. Category 3 was reserved for noble, women of appropriate age, reserved for what the records coldly called arena services. What arena services actually meant was documented in internal administrative papyri discovered in excavations beneath the Colosseum. These documents, published in scholarly journals few ever read, describe the procedures with chilling bureaucratic precision. Category 3 prisoners were held in specific underground chambers. They were provided minimal food and water, just enough to keep them healthy for display. They were brought to the arena level during victory celebrations, and they were assigned to victorious gladiators according to formal protocols that administrators tracked with the same care they applied to equipment inventory. The system was not chaos. It was administered exploitation, operating at the very heart of Roman civilization. Gaius Valerius Maximus was 32 years old when he entered Livia's cell that September evening. He had been a gladiator for 14 years, far longer than the average. His story began in Gaul. He was born free, the son of a blacksmith. When he was 18, Romans accused his father of avoiding taxes. The penalty was enslavement for the entire family. His father died in the mines. His mother and sister were sold to a Roman household. Gaius, young and strong, was sold to a gladiator school. He learned to kill efficiently. His style was defensive, patient. He fought to survive, not to impress. This kept him alive. But 14 years of killing, in front of screaming. Crowds had destroyed something essential inside him. He functioned, he trained, he fought, but he felt nothing except a deep exhaustion. The reward system had evolved during his career. At first, gladiators received monetary bonuses, but as the supply of prisoners grew, arena officials began offering access to female captives instead. Many gladiators preferred this. The pleasure of dominating a woman who had been enemy. Nobility felt like genuine victory in a life otherwise defined by servitude. Gaius had claimed this reward before, 3 times in the past 2 years, and each experience left him feeling emptier than the last. The officials had noticed. They marked his records as showing inconsistent performance. Gladiators who showed weakness could be promoted to more dangerous matches. The system had ways of eliminating pieces that no longer functioned optimally. So when Gaius won his match that September afternoon, earning the right to claim a Category 3 prisoner, he felt only dread. He knew what was expected. He knew that failing to perform would raise questions about his usefulness. He knew the woman waiting in the cell was someone's daughter, who had watched her family die hours earlier. And he knew he would enter that cell anyway, because refusing meant consequences he could not afford. The system did not permit conscience. It permitted only function or failure. Livia knew nothing of Gaius's internal struggle. From her perspective, chained in a cell designed for violation, he was simply the next horror in a series of horrors. Just weeks before, her life was one of privilege. Her father's estate in the Carpathian foothills had Greek tutors, Roman trade contacts, and comfort. She was learning philosophy and music. That life ended when Roman troops arrived. The assault was swift. Her father was killed defending their home. Her mother died in a fire. Livia and her brothers were captured alive because they were young, noble, and identifiable. The journey to Rome took 5 weeks in cages on wagons. The conditions were deliberately dehumanizing. Her brothers tried to protect her, whispering reassurances they knew were lies. In Rome, they were separated. Livia was taken underground and told she was a Category 3 prisoner. She was forced to watch as her brothers were given useless weapons and cut down by professional killers, while 50,000 Romans cheered. Now, the man who had won that contest stood before her, tall, scarred, and expressionless. She did not know his name or his story. She knew only that he represented everything that had destroyed her life. Roman conquest rendered personal, the system made flesh. She waited for the inevitable. But what happened next defied the system's design. Gaius crossed the small cell. And then he sat on the floor, leaning against the wall opposite her. He made no move toward her. He simply sat. For several minutes, neither spoke. Livia slowly realized that nothing was happening. Finally, she risked looking at him. Livia, whispering in Latin. Why? Gaius, voice low, weary. It did not change Rome, but for 20 years. It offered a space where the broken could be seen as human. For almost 2,000 years, the chambers beneath the Colosseum were hidden, filled with rubble and earth. Serious archaeological excavation began in the 19th century, but it was modern, systematic work starting in the 1990s that revealed the full truth. In 2018, excavators discovered the allocation chambers, 20 small rooms along a single corridor. Each contained the same features: iron rings set in walls, drainage channels, and doors that locked from the outside. They found record niches near the doorways. While the wax tablets had degraded, impressions in the stone remained. Using advanced imaging, specialists recovered text fragments. One read, "Prisoner 312, Britannic female, age approximately 20, assigned to gladiator Titus Flavius. Duration 4 hours. Condition requires 3-day recovery before next allocation." The clinical language was a perfect match to the historical sources. Most poignantly, they found scratch marks on the walls. In Chamber 12, a name was scratched 17 times. Livia. Someone had insisted on her identity, even as the system tried to erase it. Whether it was our Livia is unknowable, but it was a Livia, and the scratches testified to the same unyielding human impulse to resist erasure. The archaeological evidence is conclusive. The reward system was real. The exploitation was systematic. The machinery existed. The Roman arena system was not an aberration. It was the logical extension of Roman values. Rome celebrated power. Domination was framed as bringing civilization to barbarians. The concept of universal human rights did not exist. Within this framework, using female prisoners as rewards was simply efficient resource allocation. This kind of systematic cruelty requires specific conditions: the dehumanization of victims, a bureaucracy that distributes responsibility, an ideology that justifies exploitation, economic incentives, and normalization that makes atrocity seem routine. Rome achieved all these conditions. The lesson of the allocation chambers is not a comfortable one. It teaches us that civilization and barbarity are not opposites, but often partners. The same administrative genius that built the Colosseum also administered the horror within it. We remember Livia. We remember Andrada, the woman who refused to fight her. We remember Camilla, who survived. We remember Gaius, who made one small choice that mattered, even though it changed almost nothing. Remember the scratches on the wall of Chamber 12. Remember that even total domination cannot achieve total erasure. This is the legacy of the whispers beneath the Colosseum, not of heroic victory, but of humanity, fragile and persistent, enduring even in the darkest of places. "I am not going to hurt you. I am going to sit," here for the 4 hours of my allocated time. Then I will leave. They will mark their records, and you will have 4 hours without additional damage." He told her he had watched her, refused to fight that morning, that he understood. She was braver than he had been in 14 years, that he could give her this one small thing, even if he could not give her freedom or justice. Livia began to cry. She had not cried during any of the previous horrors, but this unexpected kindness broke something inside her. They talked, haltingly, over those 4 hours. Two people on opposite sides of the system found a brief connection. Gaius spoke of his family in Gaul, his enslavement, the slow erosion of his soul. Livia told him of Dacia, her family, her studies, the assault, and watching her brothers die. They could not save each other. They could not change their fates. But for 4 hours, they were simply two human beings talking in the dark. When the time expired, Gaius stood. "Gaius, I cannot come back. I cannot request you again without raising questions. This was one time. I am sorry I cannot do more. Livia, this was more than I expected from anyone ever again. Thank you." He knocked on the door, it opened, he left. The lock turned once more, and Livia was alone again, the brief respite over. Livia died 12 days later, not from violence, but from infection. The accumulated damage from multiple punishment assignments created wounds that festered. Without medical care, she developed a fever, then delirium, and finally, septic shock. She died alone in a holding cell. Officials noted her death in their records. Prisoner 417, Category 3, Dacian female, deceased due to complications from service. Her body was disposed of in the mass graves outside Rome. She was inventory that had been depleted. The bureaucratic language concealed a human life, utterly destroyed. Gaius learned of her death through the arena's gossip network. The confirmation brought a grief that surprised him. He began refusing all reward assignments, requesting monetary bonuses instead. Officials noted this with concern. He was summoned, questioned. A compromise was reached. He would fight more dangerous matches for higher pay, but would no longer be forced to participate in the reward system. He accepted. He survived 3 more years before a severe injury earned him his freedom. A sword wound to his thigh left him with a permanent limp. His owner, calculating the public relations value, granted him freedom. Gaius was a free man at 35, but purposeless. He eventually met a Dacian woman named Camilla, who had also survived the category 3 system before being sold to a brothel and later freed. Together they opened a tavern in a poor district of Rome, a place where former gladiators and freed slaves could find community. It was a small rebellion, a microscopic resistance,